off. Hello, my name is Brad Bodnerchuk, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, where we discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen, and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some of the most exciting, inspiring, and innovative minds that make up one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today, I have the pleasure of being joined by none other than Lucy Gregory and Daphne Wong. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Thank you so much for having me into your co-work space. This is such a cool, my first time being in a WeWork. We'll give a shout out to WeWork right now.
It's a very cool space.
It is.
Yeah, I was also blown away by the size of this space. It's huge.
And yet it's one of their smaller locations.
It is, yeah.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Well, the downtown ones are massive, and I think they have multiple floors too.
Oh, wow. So let's just jump right in to give myself more context and the listeners as well. Tell us about what your company is, Salt Design. Is it Salt Design Co.?
It is.
Salt Design Co. So tell us more about what Salt Design Co. is, how you two came to be partners working together, and what you're doing day in and day out with your business.
Good question. Do you want to do the first part, and I'll talk about how we met?
Sure, I knew you were going to do that. So Soul Design Co. is a brand design and development studio here in Vancouver. We specialize on small business design, web design, and kind of the overall brand development and management. So we work with entrepreneurs and other small business owners to craft their full brand identity and think very strategically about how that plays into their business, how marketing relates to that, and literally everything that goes along with it, but with a focus on the visuals and the design.
That was so beautifully worded. I had someone ask me the other day what I do, and I was like, I design, and then I just kind of stopped. I was like, wait,
there's more
yes,
to
there's
it.
more to that. So yeah, Lucy and I met in design school in Vancouver. So there was it was a diploma program, and it was like a year and a bit. So we were in the same class day in, day out for a year and a bit. And so afterwards, we were always joking. I was like, I don't want to do this alone. We should all start a business together. And then she and I actually did. So here we go.
And how many years ago was that?
Nearly 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 4 years I think December.
Is it 4 years? Why did I think it was 5?
It's
4.
Okay, that's okay.
Definitely
You guys
4.
are like that couple, right? Where traditionally or non-traditionally, like male female
Yes.
couple. Where,
Oh, no, we are married.
He has no idea
Yeah.
what the anniversary is, and she does.
We are legally married.
We had a photo shoot done by one of our friends, and I was looking through some of the photos, like, Lucy, this looks like an engagement shoot. We're like sitting in a hutch with holding coffee, like staring at each
Perfect.
other, laughing. I was like, this is so beautiful.
It honestly is hilarious, and people wonder why we're not, because we hang out at the weekends, like people wonder why we're not sick of each other. You know, you spend all day working together. We are legally bound.
Mm-hmm.
We probably know each other better than anybody else, and we joke about going to counseling together to help the business. So
That probably isn't a bad thing.
we are basically married.
I think something that we can unpack here quickly, if you guys are open to it, is it doesn't matter the industry or the business. I think partnerships are just so interesting to understand and dissect, and whether it is, say, a head chef and a restaurateur, or two guys that used to run a bar at some hotel, they now own their own restaurant together. There's a lot of dynamics when it comes to a business partnership. So can you guys shed some light on what has really worked for you both? I mean, you jokingly said like going to see a counselor. I think communication in any business is the most valuable thing you can invest in. But what has worked for you both over the past 4 or 5 years? Disclaimer, we'll find out in show notes and put it. But what has worked for you guys, like viscerally? Can you share with some things that you've done that has really allowed for you to go from being classmates to business partners and thrive in that?
Yeah, we joke a lot about some of it just being, you know, we're very similar people, but we work very differently. So we make great friends, but we also balance each other out at work.
Sorry, what were you saying?
No. I think a lot of business partnerships that we've seen struggle is where people are either too similar and do the same thing. So there's a clash where people don't know their roles and responsibilities, or they are doing completely different things, but they don't actually connect on a different level, where like they have complementary skills but they don't quite communicate very well.
Yeah, it was the luck of the draw that Lucy and I are very similar, but like we have each other's, like her strengths are things that I'm not super keen on and vice versa. And it just, the more we kept going on with our partnership, the more we're like, holy moly, like we are very, very lucky that it kind of worked out the way that it did. And just, you're right about the communication part. Like if you want to make anything work long term, like you have to start talking about the issues
Mm-hmm.
and all the
The
hard
tough stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Or even just, I think because I was full-time with the business before Daphne was, and I think I remember you saying, you know, there's moments where you're like, oh, I disagree with this, or I want to give feedback on this. How do I do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yes, please. Like that was a really great part of partly coming from art school where you critique each other's work.
Okay, that happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
You literally put it up on a wall, step back, and the whole class critiques it.
Wow,
So
that'll build some thick skin.
Yeah, but it's productive because you see an outside perspective. And so when I was full-time designing, Daphne was in every single project. I was sending her screenshots like, what do you think of this? And what about this? What do we do here? So she had a chance to offer feedback. And I think that really set a tone for how we do things, where like no decision or no design is really sent off without the other person reviewing it, which opens the door to other conversations and other like open communication, which Daph kind of kicked off more when there was more of a, it wasn't even like an argument or anything. I think I just said something. She was like, hey, I didn't like you saying that. Can we not? And I was like, yeah, great. Because you saw that it being like a long-term thing. Like we can't let something petty get in the way of what could be the rest of our lives.
Yeah. And I think Lucy and I both love to dive deep into topics as well. So like every single day we will just find something and then suddenly just like talk it to death and be like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Like now we're both kind of, we see each other's perspective and like, that's great.
Yeah.
Now let's move on with the work.
To the point where when we were hosting Assembly and Sarah McCabe, who was hosting it with us.
Shout out, Sarah.
Shout out to Sarah. We were having a conversation about something and she almost moved on and was like, oh, I thought we were done with that. And we were like, oh no, we're still hashing this out.
Wow.
We are not done. And she was like, oh, okay, I'll just leave you to it.
That's pretty fun that you guys are both aware of that and you like nurture that, because a lot of people, again, they avoid those things and they'll end those conversations as soon as they possibly can. But
It's
for
just
you
more
guys,
fun to have the other perspective and other insight. Like you learn so much more, you do so much better. And I think we've done we always joke about these personality tests that we do, but it's really helped us to get to know how the other person's brain works and how the other person thinks. So then you're not coming from it of, it's never a place of like, well, I'm right or you're wrong. It's just like, oh, well, this is how you're approaching it or thinking about it or seeing it. And I'm trying to understand or get on the same page. And together we can like find a middle ground or figure out what is the best solution because no one's 100% right ever.
Yeah. So how does that come up for you guys then in what you do when you just said what you just said, meaning no one's 100% right? Like there's always going to be different opinions, varying opinions. That's something I've always been intrigued because I actually love creative process. I love art. I'm super into it, whether it's like art on a wall or music or poetry. I just really dig into that stuff. It can be so subjective though when someone says like, do you like this? Yes or no. So let's break down that client relationship that you guys have a little bit to give me a better understanding and the listeners. How does that work? So say you bring on a client and you're working together and the process is whatever it is, and we'll go through what that process is for you guys. I'm sure it's unique, and you present the client with a storyboard or whatever you present them with, and you both are like, this is it. We nailed it. This is amazing. The client's like, this is terrible. I don't like it. Do it again. What is that process like? How do you, one, as humans, how do you digest that? And then as a business, what is that process when that happens? If it happens. I'm assuming it doesn't because your work's all amazing, right?
Thank you. Wow.
Disclaimer.
The thing is we have our processes in place to kind of prevent that from happening. I think really early on, Lucy and I realized like we can't just arbitrarily go into a project and be like, hey, this looks great, A, B, and C. Do you like this? Because there's nothing to back it up. And it's really hard to justify any of your choices if you're just kind of picking out of thin air and be like, but we think this looks really good. And you're like, but why? Well,
Right,
why do they care? So we early on have decided like strategy is the main thing and it's just the building block of our business. So everything that we do has a reason and it has a purpose for being there. So at that point, whenever we present it to the client, if they don't really agree with it, we can be like, but listen, we've discussed it and we wanted it to be like the strategy that we discussed. And more often than not, they kind of see it and they'll just like, we can find a compromise that works a little bit better for them.
Yeah, I think when you understand like the justification for something, you understand why it's valuable or important and therefore it's easier to like it. We do sometimes have like, well, that's your personal preference or that's actually what's right for the business. And that strategic process that we have really focuses on who's your ideal client, who's your demographic, what are the goals of your business, and how are we going to help you achieve that with the brand identity, with the visuals. And that includes also like messaging and taglines, as well as the visual identity piece. So when they see it as a whole package rather than like one individual element, it makes a lot more sense to them. And we keep a lot of personal preference in mind. We really try for that because a lot of our clients are sole proprietors or individuals within their business. So we know it's important, especially if they're like very forward facing. It is them, the brand is them. But we also approach it from is this right for your business? Is this right for your clients? And if you're going to give us feedback on that and you maybe disagree, like why? What is it too masculine? Does it make you look a little bit like too young? Is it too whatever it is? And that kind of feedback we can work with, because it's not just, I don't like it.
Right.
Or it's terrible or anything like that. It's like, there's a reason why this is here. So what's the reason why you don't like it? Or the reason why it doesn't work for your business?
So you guys are digging a lot deeper than just like what's on the surface. So what is that process like? Can you give us a very high level look at, you engage with a new client, hypothetically half a dozen hospitality?
Yep.
I'm putting that out there.
Yep.
So we sit down. What does that process look like from start to finish?
It is, yes, it's in depth. We go deep. And a lot of what the work we're doing and even moving into in the next kind of year and phase of the business is even more in-depth strategy with our clients and looking at their business as a whole and as the big picture, because we've worked with so many clients at this point and have like Salt, we also have a little side business. So we can see into different business models, different marketing options. So that process starts with the strategy. We have 4, sometimes 5 brand questionnaires. And we ask them a bunch of questions about like their business, why they started it, what they love about it, what's the gap that they're filling, what do clients or customers, like what's their biggest want or need, why are they coming to you, why are they choosing over other people, like there's just a lot of questions.
Are those
really nervous.
Are those unique to, are the questions unique, do you feel, to Salt, or are they, if we were to go to a dozen design firms all over the world, would there be some similarities to the questions, or do you guys feel like you're touching on some unique questions that really ask people to go internal and find out, again, their why, if you will?
I think it's a combination. I think there's some that a lot of designers will ask.
Like
and then
typical ones?
Yeah, and then there's some that go a bit deeper.
Yeah.
I think for me, what stands out most is the way that we approach your clients, and especially for a small business where we're asking who's the individual, but then also if you are trying to target larger companies, who within that company are we trying to target, and are they the final decision maker? Are they reporting to someone else? Okay, let's explore who those people are, and beyond who they are, like what do they value, what do they care about, and what does that mean for the actions that they're taking and the decisions that they're making? Because it might not just be like, well, they're this old and this is how much money they make and they live in this city, like great, couldn't really care less.
Right.
Like, what do they care about? Because that will influence the decisions they make and therefore whether or not they're going to hire you. And so if you can use language that they use, that they resonate with, to attract them, that even if they have to report to someone else, like a CEO or something, to be a decision maker, they have like the tools and the language to do that, or they're so in and so sold on it that they can then express that to their boss.
Have you guys been approached by anyone yet in the hospitality or food space?
Food adjacent.
Yeah.
I think
We worked with Zimt Chocolate briefly on a cookbook. Not that many. Yeah, lots of food adjacent.
Food adjacent is a lot of people like having products, but nobody in the restaurant industry or like food and beverage in that sense.
Yeah, Woj Tea. We did the brand design and packaging and menus for that. We've worked with a few nutritionists as well. So yeah, they're kind of within the industry, but they're not specifically like hospitality.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I wanted to host you two on the show is because I think it's becoming more and more important in the landscape, in the environment, to invest in things like this in a design process to make sure you really are insulated and having the best, the best messaging that you can to the community. So again, hypothetical, if there is a restaurateur or a head chef listening, they're like, oh man, like we should like beef up our game as far as our design is concerned. Is the process different for a restaurant, or would it be the exact same? I mean, we're asking the same questions, trying to get to the same end result, or is there something unique that you guys feel that this industry has compared to others, or is it kind of like it's just the same? We just need to wear different hats.
I think maybe we'd start the same way and see where the process takes us. Ultimately, what we're trying to distill from our clients when we work with them through our strategy is like, what is it that makes you special in a sea of just other people doing similar things? You're never going to have something that is completely unique, but what is unique to you? What gets you excited about your business every day, gets you going and like wanting to market it? And I think our strategy is really good at picking up on that little thing that they don't realize, like, is a repeating pattern that comes up quite often. So like with our process, they'll fill in the questionnaires. Lucy and I go through it, we dig through it with a fine-tooth comb, and then basically sum it all up in a strategy for them. And then they read it back and they're like, oh, this really resonates with what I'm trying to do. And so it helps them really pick up on like those minute details, which I think would be kind of similar for a restaurant, you know.
For sure.
And that process includes either a 1 hour, sometimes 90 minutes meeting or video call.
Okay.
And from the answers they give to the questionnaires and then through that meeting, the patterns that Daphne is talking about, like sometimes you hear them just using the same language or the way that suddenly in person they're so like vibrantly talking about their business, and you're like, look, that is it.
Right.
You might not think that's that
A
special
thing,
or that
right.
unique, but the passion that you're talking about this with and the language you're using, no one else is doing that. That's your thing to hone in on. And I think a lot of times people know what it is, but they don't have the confidence to back it, or they just don't realize it's as unique as it is because they don't have such an outside perspective.
Right.
I think, yeah, the initial process would be probably similar. The fun thing with restaurants and cafes and that sort of thing is there's more touch points. There's, you know, the menus.
So many. So dynamic, right?
Yeah, there's just so much there. And the marketing, there's kind of more scope for having conversations with customers and creating some kind of story or being part of their lives in a different way than some of our other clients who it's not such a daily or weekly interaction. It might not hold so much significance. There might not be memories attached to some of their businesses, whereas there can be for restaurants.
Totally. There's anniversaries and birthdays and engagements, all those things that happen in these spaces. Is there anyone right now, not to put you on the spot, but is anyone right now top of mind for you that you feel like in the hospitality space that's really dialed in their brand and their messaging and their marketing pieces and how they create dialogue and create a story with their guests? Again, not to put you on the spot. Can be local, can be international.
Can I flip that around and talk about the one design firm that Lucy and I both love and have actually done a lot of branding within the city?
I think I know who you're going to say.
Yeah. Should we all say it at the same time?
Yeah, one, two, three.
Glassford and Walker.
Shout out Glassford and Walker. We're actually engaging them. I have another business on the side, and my partner and I are bringing a food symposium here to Vancouver next year.
Cool.
So we're doing all of our branding and
Yeah.
messaging. And so
They are heavy hitters in the food and drink industry. So yeah, lots of restaurants were going through my head. I was like, well, Glassford and Walker did this.
It's kind of like the main.
So let's not make this about them, but let's pump their tires because they deserve it. So what are they doing? Why are they serving that industry so well? And what are you guys experiencing viscerally in those spaces where you're like, that was so smart, or like, oh, that was so on point with this theme or this concept?
I think it's just that they always have a theme. If you think of like Jukebox Chicken, there's such a theme. If you think of Vidura on Main Street, the salad bar, there's a very like grounded like Greek Roman theme. Each of their restaurants that they brand like Mac and Ming, there's a very clear visual theme that they really roll with, and it starts with the story or the origin of the brand, or they really lean into it. You know, Kiss a Tanto, like I could just keep listing beautiful restaurants. I think Juice Truck does it exceptionally well for a small cafe, or what started as literally the truck, and the story and the way they engage with the community, and especially now the vegan community, the way that they bring people in and the influencers, and they've just boomed because of it. They've really grown so exponentially. Anyone
else for you, Daphne, or is it just Glassford? What about Glassford?
I just like that they do things that are like out of the box traditionally for restaurants. Like I think that restaurants were pretty like you have your Cactus Clubs and whatever.
Yes, yeah.
And then they're fine.
They have their space.
They have their space and they look okay. But then you have restaurants doing things that are completely wild, and you're like, you would never have thought to put two and two together, but now you're like, hey, it's a restaurant. You can do whatever you want and it doesn't matter. Like I think on Juke Chicken they have that cool guy on their packaging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really cool. Like how you would never think to do that, and they're just like, let's think outside the box. Let's put this guy in his underwear
Yeah.
on our.
You can just have a bit
on
more
our paper.
fun, and
Yeah.
get creative, and really lean into it in the way that other businesses can't.
Other industries can't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And you really, I mean, for us as designers, sometimes we have to hold ourselves back on that to make it more functional or
Yeah.
more professional. And with hospitality, you can just go for it.
And I think they do quite a bit of like custom type too, and that's very
They do,
impressive.
yeah.
So
For those that are listening that might not know what custom type is, can you expand?
just their logo is like specific. You can just go and type like something and just say in a Word document, it's Times New Roman, it's whatever. But they're they're making their own letters and like really customizing something so that you cannot find that font anywhere else. It is unique to that restaurant.
Right. And would you guys do that with some of your clients as well? Have you gone down that rabbit hole yet or no?
Not 100%. We do make tweaks and customize existing fonts. So a font, this is going to be a lot of jargon, a font that you just type into, say, a software like Illustrator that we use is quote unquote live text, and that's the kind of text you can edit the way you would in Word. In Illustrator, you then outline that text, so it literally takes the shape and makes it into like a vector shape.
Yeah.
And then from there, it gives you like little points that you can move on it, so you can change the shape. So we'll go in and we'll adjust the shape of the letter. We'll find a font where like the shape, the overall structure of the letters is what we want, but maybe we want to like join a few or make a little gap so one can nestle into the other, and we'll kind of slot words together to make the logo, and that way it's custom. But we haven't completely built a whole new, because it's quite an undertaking.
Yeah. How much of what you do with your clients and with your work do you feel is tapping into the subconscious? I'm a big fan of what happens to us subconsciously and how powerful our subconscious is. And I just imagine there's a lot of touch points in certain businesses and certain industries, especially in hospitality, that are really put there to not necessarily general users to be conscious of them, but they are subconsciously impacting their experience in that environment. So when you're doing tweaks like that to a font and you're trying to inform the client about it, they're like, I don't really get it. But are you guys then saying like, these are the pieces that are subconsciously really going to be impacting your end user or your end customer or client? Are you thinking about that, the subconscious mind, through your process?
A little bit, yeah. A lot of it comes with the foundational stuff that we probably don't even think about that much ourselves now, because it's so like
in your subconscious.
Yeah. You know, the way that colors play into things and fonts, there's a lot of pre-existing styles that when you see it, you think a certain thing because that's just what's already been done with it.
Can you give us an example?
Yes, fashion magazines have a very distinct, like the fonts, like Elle magazine, Vogue, they all use what's called a Dido font. And so that says fashion, it says magazines, it says editorial, it says feminine. And that type of font has like high contrast. So one part of the letter will be thick, one part of the letter will be very thin. So when we're using a Dido type of font, a classification of font, we are only doing that for like a very feminine brand or a very like maybe they are editorial or magazine or something similar to that. So we're very conscious of those sorts of decisions because it will subconsciously say something to a viewer. Colors the same way.
Yep.
And then there are smaller details that say a certain thing, but I think it's more about how, you know, if there's like a bit of spacing in a margin or the way that like a logo, the fonts will slot together, it almost just like sometimes it just makes you uncomfortable or it makes you more comfortable and you don't even realize it or why. Like you can create tension with that spacing in the margins. So we're just doing those things to like, well, what's the overall vibe or energy that someone is going to experience? So they'll experience it and have no idea that
it's there.
Yeah.
For me, when I go out and I'm in the local community or I'm traveling abroad and I'm going into hotels and cafes and bars and restaurants, I'm always looking at it through the lens of a consultant, always looking at like every aspect that I possibly can, from how does the temperature of the air on my skin feel? Is the music too loud, too soft? What is the music? All those things. And I want for it to be a very like connected and not disjointed vibe in the space, for lack of a better term. When you guys go out, I'm assuming you go out and you dine out. You mentioned a bunch of restaurants, so you're definitely aware of the scene that's going on here locally. Are you wearing the same hat as well? Obviously not as a restaurant consultant, but from a design lens, are you like looking at the menu and touching it and feeling it and looking at the font? Or are you, when you go out, are you just going out?
I think I'm a little bit more forgiving, because there are some places where you're like, you know what, you can only do what you can. You don't have the money.
Right.
But not too long ago, I was in one of the bigger chain restaurants, and every little detail was just lacking, just a little bit, where you're like, I don't want to come back here. Everything about this has been subpar from top to bottom. And like every other person that goes in, they're like, oh, it's fine. But you, as somebody who's like, if you're pretty analytical and you're in a space that you think you expect more of, like you look at the menu and like, this is kind of ugly, and then you're like, this food is kind of okay, like the decor is whatever, and so that's when it kind of snowballs.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, sorry to interrupt, Lucy, do you feel like for you, Daphne, if you go out without Lucy or with other friends, are they like, can you just like sit back and enjoy it? Are you like verbalizing this stuff, or is this happening just internally?
No, I send, like, if I'm not with Lucy, I'll send her a picture and be like, hey, look at this. This is real ugly. Or be like, ooh, look at this. We could try this. So, yeah.
Really early on, we learned that you start to recognize font. So that happens to me more than anything, where I'll just be out and about and be like, oh, I know what that font is.
It's like, oh, that's our font. Oops.
Like, oh, stop it, brain. I think I analyze stuff more than Daphne.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there, we're speaking to a very niche group of listeners, and a lot of them are just in this industry, and a lot of them are owners of spaces. If they're not at the point where they're looking to full on go into this process of engaging with a company like yours, but are interested in like tweaking things just a little bit, what would be some of the low hanging fruit that you two can give some context to? Be like, look, guys, if you focus on this, this, and this, it'll completely change, or it should completely change the user experience in your space. Is there low-hanging fruit, and what would that be?
A lot of that comes back to the experience, for me at least, where I think sometimes, and we say this with, a lot of our clients, that it's not always about the visuals or the design. There's other things where the whole thing that pulls together, and like the design and visuals is one part of that. So the low-hanging fruit might not be design. It might just be, well, are you considering how all these things connect in your business, or what the experience is like for somebody walking in the front door? Do they have to awkwardly stand around, and do they know whether they have to wait? Do they seat themselves? What is that experience? Because a lot of our work for design starts with, well, who's the client and what is their experience with your business? Because we're designing for that and around that. So, are you making them comfortable? Do they feel awkward the minute they step in because they don't know whether they're seating themselves? What about the menus? Are they ordering at the bar? Like, how does the entire experience of your customer, not just, is it high quality food? Does the space look beautiful? Are the menus printed nicely? Like, they are great things. And I think you can definitely work on like low hanging fruit of menus or coffee cups, or what, having like fun, colorful coffee cups. But just thinking about the entire experience from start to finish, because that's a huge part of the work we do with clients, is just thinking, well, what is that person getting from you? What's that service?
I agree with that, actually. Where I love like the minute details of things. It's just like, if there are things that I realize like you should have thought about that, then that's a kind of type of thing that would annoy me. Like, don't put your umbrella stand right by the door kind of thing. Like, that's like little details like that. And I do think too, maybe just harkening back to what you said, like, I don't know how much it applies within restaurants itself, but do really think about your audience and who's coming in, and like, who are you trying to attract? And if you can kind of distill that, and just even on a really surface level, like, think about the things that they would like visually on menus and things, and like that, I think would probably help elevate it a little bit more. It's better sometimes to have like a bit more of a direction than be all over the place. And then like when you're talking to too many people, no one is satisfied.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be like, oh, I have a very unique high-level experience. It's like, is your, I don't know, taco bar just somewhere where people want to come in, they want to just get tacos, they want to go again? Like, is that your person? Are they coming home from work, they're walking past your shop, it's close to the bus stop, they just want in and out? How can you like utilize and maximize that experience to help them? It doesn't have to be like fancy, like there's this whole story. It can be really simple, but just knowing who that person is, I think it makes a huge difference for everything.
Let's talk about inspiration for a second. I take inspiration from so many things, whether it is art, like music is a big thing for me in a lot that I do. I get inspired by my clients. I get inspired by the industry. I get inspired by going to a farm and getting my hands in the dirt. Like, there's a lot of things that inspire me. For you both, as a company or individually, where do you look for inspiration, and where do you pull inspiration from?
You know what? Most of the time, what happens is that we have our, this is going to sound super cheesy, but like we have our strategy meeting with our clients. And when they get really excited about something, that's when I'm just like, oh, I'm raring to go. Like, let's leave this meeting so that we can get started on whatever.
Action.
Yeah. Like on whatever we're trying to build with you. Like, I think the other day we had a client and she loves lemons and she loves yellow. And like, we got to the really like the nitty gritty of like, how are you special? And she just really leaned into it and she knew exactly what she wanted. I was like, oh, this is really good. Like, this is a special thing to you. And that gets me really excited.
Yeah, and as they're talking, it like, I just get all these visuals going through my head because they're saying specific things about their business or their clients. I'm like, oh, well, that would work and that would, you know, and it just like fires off.
I think we're leaning more now into taking the brand just beyond just like, here is some visuals, take it and run. Like, now we want to push, like, now that we have these visuals, how can you implement them so your brand can be even stronger? And so that's something that we're working at too. So that gets me like pretty jazzed about what we're about salt.
I like that. And then, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say Instagram and Pinterest.
Oh yeah, that too.
What's, and then this is going to sound like I'm joking, but I'm not. Like, what hashtag are you searching to?
None.
Oh, no? Just like who you follow, I guess?
Actually, the only hashtag I search is Pantone. So I can see different. So Pantone is like the color books that designers use, and they have a whole system of different colors, and you get the codes and whatever. And people on Instagram will, if they're using like maybe like a very monochrome palette, but it could just be a photo of a place, or it could be food, it could be something funny, it could be a flat lay they made. Like, people will tag Pantone for all sorts of different colorful things. So that's one I search. Otherwise, it's just very specific, like illustrators, designers, artists, like letterers that I follow that just love them.
Can we mention any so we can throw them in the show notes and give them a shout out?
Sure.
Tom Lowe is a recent one I found. I think he's British as well, and he does these, it's kind of art, but it's hilarious. He does these with the Pantone. They come in these little swatches of a color, and he's taking some of them and putting them into cultural references and makes videos.
Okay.
So we'll have like the color swatch could be what was it? Like, he has Friends quotes, and so the name of
Friends,
the color
like the
swatch,
show? Okay, yeah.
would be like a line from the show, and then every single time that person says it, their face, and it'll be on a repeat of a video. So it'd be Monica being like Chandler Bing or something, just on repeat every single time she said it in the you know, it's just really funny.
Yeah, like the Pantone square is kind of shaped like a Polaroid, so you have the white strip at the bottom, so that's like where the little text is.
And Hom Sweet Hom, like
she's pretty
HOM, is a letterer, like illustrator. She's incredible. Jessica Hish. I mean, I could just...
One of my favorites that I've followed for a while is Andrew Kolb, Kolb. He does these like illustrations, and they kind of are a little like mid-century modern, but also very like current. And his illustrations are super cute and just full color, and there's always so much detail going into it. So right now it's Inktober, so all the artists are doing drawings every day for until the 31st, and so his is all like spooky based, but it's like adorable, like mummies running around in supermarkets and things, and just his stuff is so good.
He did the Disney series, right?
He did, yes. Like, he's worked for Disney before doing a bunch of their stuff.
He
Talented guy.
Big illustrations.
He's
It's almost like a
Canadian
Where's
too.
Waldo, where you're trying to find the different Disney
Oh,
characters.
okay. That's fun.
We follow a lot of like much more artists and creatives. I find if I follow too many like people that do the same thing as us, it gets a bit diluted or overwhelming, or you end up copying them a bit.
Yeah, I feel like this has come up a lot for me in the last few episodes. It's like it becomes like an echo chamber, and just the same stuff. Like, it's like if we stood in this room like for weeks, we would just have the same ideas. And my coach is now challenging me to go and like speak to people that aren't in hospitality, that aren't all about positivity, that aren't extroverts. Like, go find a group of introverts and like be quiet and like do different things, and just watch your creative process through that and what you're learning. I think that's so healthy as well, because it's so easy for us just to hang out with people that think like us and always say like, yeah, Brad, I think that's great too. Find someone that challenges you. Let's talk about challenges in the actual work that you do. We've talked about the potential of a client saying, I don't dig this, but hopefully we've done all the right work up front so we don't come to that. What other challenges that come up for you in starting your own business, in being entrepreneurs, in taking on clients that maybe were a little bit daunting at the start? Like, what are some challenges you can share with the listeners as partners and as individuals, but also as entrepreneurs?
Great question.
I think one of the main things we had with our clients, I guess, is trying to figure out who is our best client. Like, who do we want to work with? Learning to say no to the wrong ones, because at some point, like we've learned that you always have to trust your gut,
Yeah.
because our gut's always right, but we still soldier on. And then after the fact, you're like, oh, remember when you felt that feeling and it wasn't good? And now we're at this point with our clients. So it's just, we've really had to distill that. And that was kind of a learning curve at the beginning.
It's tricky though, because you're trying to, especially in the beginning, you're trying to maximize cash flow and
you
build
want
a revenue.
business.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know that all too well.
And we wouldn't have revenue without some of those clients.
Yeah.
And some of them, there's some clients that we don't particularly enjoy, but they're some of our higher paying clients. So you just sort of roll with it sometimes and learn from it.
Do you feel like at some point that will stop though? Do you feel like you'll get to a point where, and maybe this is just a mindset thing and I don't want to project on you here, but do you think it's maybe a mindset of lack and you're just like, I'll take it because, whereas if you're like, you know what, it's just not for us. I don't care if you have a big checkbook. You wouldn't actually say this to the client, but I don't care if they have a big checkbook. This isn't going to serve us and get us to where we want to be. Does that just come with time and more reps, or is that just a mindset that you need to work on as a company?
I think for us, it hasn't even been like, oh, we'll just do this because of the money. Like at the beginning, we tend to think, oh no, that's a person we can help. Like,
right.
And we like this person, or we like maybe their marketing person. So we say yes, because we get to work with them.
Yeah.
Or it's, well, can I just have like a logo design instead of a full brand? And we say yes, because we want to help and they're a cool person and a cool company. And then we realize that defeats our entire, like it steps out of our process. And so unless we're able to do the full process that we've put all this time into doing, it's a no. So it's less about like, oh, well, we need the money, or it's kind of a mindset thing of like owning who we are and what we're here to do and what we're good at. And then being like, we would love to help you, but we're not the right person.
At some point though, it does kind of become a bit about the money, because we realize we spend so much extra time with these clients because they haven't followed our process, and now we have to kind of backtrack and be like, where have we gone wrong? And we have to fix that, and that's kind of our time that wasn't really put into the original quote or anything. And so it is really just understanding our own worth. It's not about the money. It's just like we realize we are the experts and we have all these ideas for a reason, so like we don't want to compromise on that anymore.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Let's talk about results for a second. This is something that's brand new for me. I say brand new, I'm talking like 3 weeks ago. I was challenged by my coach and mentor by this statement, and I was speaking to him because one of my clients, a client that I took on, that 30 days into it, I realized this just wasn't the right relationship. It wasn't serving me. I wasn't serving them. At least I didn't feel like it, and I wasn't seeing any progress in what we had set out to do. Our milestones weren't getting reached, and that was just really challenging for me as a person. Egotistically, I wanted their margins to get better. I wanted them to have more butts and seats and all of those things, and it wasn't happening. And I asked my coach about like, what do you do in this situation when you're not seeing results for your clients? And he said something to me that I thought was really challenging and a totally new paradigm shift for me. And I'd love to get you to speak to it. Is he said, very matter of factly, he said, Brad, you have to understand that as a coach or a consultant or as a leader, results are not your responsibility. So it's not your responsibility to get your clients results. If that is your offering, if that is what you're doing as a business, as a coach, as a consultant or a leader, you're constantly going to be working with victims, and you'll always have to be the rescuer. So keep doing that, and you'll only get victim clients. Tell your clients that you will give them the tools and you'll educate and hold space for them and give them a path to go down. But ultimately, it is their responsibility, not yours, meaning mine, to get them results. And that for me was so challenging because all of my marketing and all of my offerings have been, I will get you results, but it's not real because I'm not there 24/7. I'm not there executing all of these processes and tools and systems that I've built for you to be implemented and to be used day in and day out. So that for me was a big challenge. So for you two, I don't see you necessarily marketing yourselves as like a result-driven business, but do you agree with that statement? Are you challenged by that? Do you not agree with it when it comes to results and getting your clients results?
There's a lot of the time where we're like, at some point you have to do the work.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that statement.
Like they need to lift the weight too.
Yes, we can give you the advice and the tools, like you say. And at some point, you got to stop asking us questions and for more different options or solutions, because you just got to do the work. It doesn't matter how many options or solutions or tools you have. You got to stick with one of them and try it for long enough to be consistent to get results, and we can't do that for you.
No, I think people kind of conflate like, oh, if I have a new brand, my business is going to skyrocket. And it's just like, that's not how it works. We're going to give this to you, but you have to, exactly like Lucy said, like you got to go beyond this. Now that you have this foundation, you have to do the work and just see where that will take you. But like us creating a new logo for you will not do much.
No. And it particularly comes out in web design, and I think it's also one of the reasons why we like to be and have ended up being much more like bigger business picture, because people will ask us questions about things and how it all relates, and it is related, but specifically with websites, a lot of people are like, well, if I get this, how many like much traffic will I get, how many conversions, all this stuff, and they will reference other clients of ours, and we're like, yeah, but that client, they like utilized what we gave them. What we gave them is the tool. It's the foundation that they can build on. So they went out and they like went to all these events. They marketed their business in a unique way. They did all these other things that they couldn't have done without what we gave them, but it almost had nothing to do with what we gave them because they were the ones to go out and do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, it's their special voice or whatever that enabled them to do that. We were just there to support and kind of guide and like give them the confidence to do that, because now they know who they are as a business, what they're doing, what they're talking to, who they're talking to, and they feel good about how it visually looks. So then they can go out and do it.
Yeah.
But like, we're done by then.
Yeah, exactly. Lucy, you just mentioned something, web design. And I think it's so important right now in our environment, the day and age, that people and companies and businesses in the hospitality industry have a solid platform when it comes to their web design. Aside from a sexy website that's really intuitive and functional, what else could and should restaurants be doing, or cafes or hotels or bars be doing right now to really impact their online business, or not their online business, but their online presence? Thank you so much. Yeah, like what else should they be doing? Instagram posts once a day? Should they be on Twitter? Should they be on Facebook? Like, what are you seeing? Again, not to guarantee results, but if from where you're sitting, from messaging and just brand awareness, where should people be spending their time, energy when talking about hospitality space?
Firstly, I want to know, is their website actually functional?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just
because a lot of times, or people might think it is, but again, they're not considering the user experience. So they're like, well, it's functional in the sense like this button works and this menu works.
Right.
But have they tried to use it as a user and realize, I can't read this thing, I can't actually open up your menu, I can't find your opening hours, it doesn't work on mobile, which probably lots of people will be on for restaurants and cafes and that sort of thing. And it's a frustrating experience, and people will be like, well, fuck it. Yeah. I'm not going. I can't find it. I can't make an online reservation, or I can't even find information that says no reservations or something. So is it actually functional from a user experience standpoint? And that doesn't have to be like user experience UX that's all fancy, and it's like we've mapped out, can a user actually use your website for the purpose that they want to? Very similar to what you were saying about when someone like enters a space as well. Like, what is that like? Yeah. So I'm assuming it's kind of the same mindset. Yeah, right? 100%. And then, I think Instagram is huge. Twitter, yes. I wouldn't bother with in hospitality.
I think it is restaurant dependent too, but I think that Instagram is a very good tool to have.
What about it for you? What makes you say that? What do you think when you're saying that statement?
You go on to it, you really get a good sense of like the vibe of the restaurant. So you have to really hone in on what your Instagram account is going to be for. But then you also get to see like pictures of the food, which I really enjoy actually. I think Lucy and I have had this conversation before where I go on to the websites of restaurants, and I want to see like that your website is functional. I want to see menu, and like I'm pretty good with that, but a lot of other people are using Instagram now to go and see. And also Instagram helps kind of build awareness, like, hey, we're here. People are going to find your photos anyways, and so why not utilize that? If you have an account, people can go, they can tag you in it, and like that's how you can get around and people know that you exist.
And again, that's kind of user dependent and on the demographic. Facebook, the way that they've changed stuff with business pages, it's not really...
Facebook is no good.
relevant. And even, so it's not even a session of like, well, an older demographic might be on Facebook because Facebook as a platform isn't allowing you to do the same things. And in that case, it would be like, well, maybe Google, make sure your Google Home, your images are up to date. Are you driving people to leave reviews there? Is all your information about your business, like in the back end of your settings, you have your opening hours on your website and things like that so that people can find it. But then, if you're got a demographic who's under 40? Are you on Instagram? Do you have your opening hours in your bio? Do you have photos of your food? Because people will kind of shop through the feed and check out the menu and be like, oh, that looks really good. I go to brunch a lot, and we're constantly sending each other DMs and tags of like, this is our next brunch spot. Look at this meal looks incredible. And that drives you to go to that place and try somewhere new, because their menus with photos look really tacky, as I'm sure you know.
They're terrible.
I feel like I don't need to know what it looks like. It's okay.
But on Instagram,
it works.
It works.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah, I do like the function too of being able to see like what's the special. That's just something that's really nice too. Like there's a local cafe. I'm like, ooh, what cake do they have this weekend? And you can go on their story and see like, oh, I want to go and get that. And I think that's another feature that people can utilize really well.
Yeah, actually, when I was running a beach cafe back in England, Instagram, we didn't have it at the time, and it was one of the first things I set up as a supervisor. We had a really strong local community of regulars who would be in there every day, same time, same table, same order, and we knew them so well. And having Instagram and being able to like show off the food, the specials, we had an in-house baker who's making different cakes every day. Like, it would bring in those people who would then request that, or other people in the community. And, you know, they did a lot of menu driven barbecues and like all these special fun things, and being able to just shout about it to people a bit more easily than like, well, you're not going to hear about it until you come here.
Yeah.
At least on Instagram, you know, if people are engaging with it. We also had different uniform every season. We had different colors.
Oh, fun.
And then we would sell them to the community. So then people would come in wearing our t-shirt, and they would get like a discount because they were wearing it, or, you know, and you could use Instagram to engage with that and like do different things. And it just makes it kind of more fun, and the engagement within the space can be higher.
I will say though, on the reverse side, if your Instagram account isn't active and I go into it and I see it isn't active, it doesn't reflect well on you. And it's just kind of like, what's going on behind the scenes at your restaurant? It's not the most appetizing thing to go and be like, oh, you haven't posted since 2016. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be daily.
Yeah.
Even if it's every other day or like 3 times a week.
Just like, the last photo that you should be quite recent. That's all I'm going to say to that.
I like that. Solid advice.
Yeah.
You guys are dropping a bunch of jewels there. I like that. As you both know, this podcast is called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. So if I have for you both 2 testing questions. There was no lead up to this, so you'll have to improv. I'm sure you'll do well. You can carry the work. There's 2 of you. So I asked these 2 questions to all of my guests, and I'm intrigued to ask you 2 this morning. The question number 1 is the half a dozen have-tos. So stay with me here. There's 2 of you, so you can divide them. You can do 3 each. So I need from you both 3 to equal 6 or half a dozen of things you've experienced in your life that you feel like our listeners have to experience. Can be related to food, can be related to design, can be completely off the grid. Doesn't have to be anything with what we touched on today. But 3 things from each of you. We'll go back and forth, kind of ping pong style.
You should go first.
Of Lucy and Daphne's have-tos.
And it can be anything.
Literally anything. Like
okay.
A piece of art you've looked at, a meal you've eaten, a song you've listened to, a trip you've taken.
At least once in your life, you have to travel with friends, preferably outside of your country if you can.
Okay, I like that. Did you want to add to that, or that's it? Meaning like there's more context to that?
I mean, there can be. I think it's just really fun to, go off and explore for an extended amount of time and experience other cultures, but it's really fun to do that with friends, and the memories that you make. We've taken quite a few road trips locally to the States, like we've been to Europe together, and it's just more fun that way. And then you're more excited to go and like try the food, go to the lake, go do the things, than if you went just with yourself or even with like one other person. It's fun, but I find as a group, like group travel is actually really fun.
Yeah,
agree.
Totally.
I would say that once in your life you have to go and experience a music festival.
Cool. Anyone top of mind for you?
I wouldn't recommend this one, maybe not, but I just went to Shambhala, and it was it tested me to my limits, but I also survived. Would I go again? Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Been there, done that.
Yes.
Nice.
Cool. Do something just for fun that doesn't, in this day and age, have to be monetized, that doesn't have to be part of your business, that doesn't have to be a side hustle, like whatever it is, painting, puzzling, a dance class. Do something for you that's just for fun.
I like that one a lot. It has to be fun. Life has to be fun.
Yeah.
Daphne, back to you.
You know what? You should go once in your life. Does it have to be like anywhere? Can it be local to here or anything? Just
You
whatever I
can
want
go
it to be.
globally. You can go to the moon.
You know what? And I can't stop talking about this to people. Is that AJ's Pizza on Broadway? Go eat there because it is
Broadway
so good.
and Kingsway.
Broadway
yeah.
and Kingsway.
What about it?
It's okay. Go and eat the pizza there though, because when it's piping hot, it is so good. I love cold pizza, and every time I eat their cold pizza the next day, I'm sad that it's not super hot. And it's not to say that it's not good,
Right.
but that it's so much better when it's like super warm.
Okay, shout out AJ. Is there like a Brooklyn style, New York style
Yes.
slice?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a cool little spot.
I'm going to stay on the same theme then. If you're in Vancouver, go to Traffic Bakery on Main Street.
And get
The Earl Grey sponge cake.
Oh, yes.
ooh, dangerous.
That's very good.
That like tapped me into the fact that you could eat Earl Grey flavored foods,
Mm-hmm.
and it is the best. Like I think I've tried like Earl Grey cookies and stuff. They do like lavender cookies. No, get the Earl Grey sponge cake. I find in North America you don't really get sponge cakes or like cake the same way that
Mm-hmm.
we have in England. But Traffic Bakery, it's like Main and 27th or something,
Yeah.
has the best cake.
Was everything really like heavy here?
You just don't really get like slice. You know, you get like a triangle slice of cake.
Yeah.
You get like the bars and the
Yeah,
other things. You don't really get like a proper
traditional.
like a birthday cake. Like
Yeah.
people will make it for birthdays, and then it's
Do
got
not
that
eat
really
cake enough with
sickly,
me.
sickly sweet icing.
You're
Well, we
like-
bought you this cake
Yes.
for your birthday.
Amazing. Did you buy it for her? Did you actually buy it for yourself?
Oh no, her partner got it for a birthday like 3 or 4
It
years
was really
ago.
You didn't like
Based on
Yeah,
my
I was gonna say.
You did good. You
yeah.
did very good.
Rob
You're
always
like-
messages me. I'm like, Rob, get this cake.
Yeah. Daphne, last one.
Last one. I had something and now it is gone. I would say that the one thing that you have to do is, what was it?
Do other people have to come up with 6 by themselves?
Just on
'Cause
the
it's
spot.
Yeah,
us.
no. If it's a single person, I give them the option. They can just bail after a few.
I mean, I could
Um,
say a lot of just fun things, but
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to have some kind of meat on the bone, but yeah, if someone's struggling, I'm like, we can just move on. If you want, we can tap out at 5.
No, I got this.
Okay.
You know what? Get yourself on a boat.
Okay.
I love me a good boat party. I love being on the open water. I'm always joking that like I really want a yacht
Yeah?
as part of my vision board.
Is
so,
it like a
yeah.
super yacht or just a regular yacht?
I mean, if someone's gonna give me a regular yacht, I would take it. Sure, super yacht.
Okay, cool.
But yes, get yourself on the open waters.
Yeah, you get out there and get aquatic, and especially if you're on the
that's
coast. Yeah,
yeah, I grew up on the coast and I can vouch.
yeah,
Fresh salty air does you some good.
that's the best. Good for your skin. Good for the
Yeah,
hair.
and you get views that you don't normally get.
Hell yeah.
So
Yeah, sunsets and
Boat
seals and fish, all that stuff.
Yeah.
The last question I have for you two ladies is the half a dozen haven't yets. So kind of like a bucket list, if you will. So I need from you again 3 each. We'll start with Lucy again. So something you have yet to do in your life that is on your list that you haven't yet.
I haven't yet been to New York.
Ooh, you got to go.
it's so fun.
Yeah, great city, especially for
know.
food. Just
I'm-
unreal.
Oh, I obsess over Bon Appetit and their recommendations.
Mhm.
I am all over that.
Cool. All right, New York. By when?
Hopefully 2021 because I'm going to Hawaii next year, which is another haven't yet.
Oh,
done.
good for you. Awesome.
Tokyo. I really want to go to Tokyo.
What about it?
Everything about it. I love like cutesy stuff. I love all that Sanrio stuff. I love Studio Ghibli stuff. So it's just the perfect environment for me. So,
Okay. All right, Tokyo on the list.
I haven't yet gotten a tattoo that I've been talking about getting for like 3 years.
I think it's been more than that.
What is it?
I wanted like a floral tattoo. I have 2 already, but I've wanted another one, and I've just spent about 4 years trying to debate where to get it.
Okay.
And finding the right artist, and then like saving up the money and just not being a chicken about the pain and like just doing it.
Right.
And I haven't yet done that, and it's
Can the two of us and our thousands, shout out to you guys, listeners, can we hold you accountable to it?
yes, please.
Okay.
Sure.
By when?
Get it in New York.
Yeah, get it in New
No,
York.
because I want that girl on Instagram that I follow. I found an artist now that I love.
Where is she?
She's local.
And what's her name?
Her Instagram handle is like @Nisa.
Okay. We'll put it in the show notes.
ESA. She's incredible. Just the line. She does these like little dotted lines to kind of shade. It's so pretty. Daphne actually got a tattoo together one time. Daphne has a lot, so maybe I'll just.
So it's right. We're recording on October the 9th. We get it before the year's out.
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
You know what? Get like your tax return, and as soon as that comes in, you just go make an appointment.
spring 2020.
Done. we'll get you back on the show to talk about your tattoo experience, and we'll get a picture and put it up on our Instagram.
Perfect.
Here for it.
As long, I mean, if it's in a
Oh, it'll probably be on my arm or something.
Oh,
you know,
okay,
so
good.
don't worry.
I jumped the gun on getting a photo of it. I apologize. Daphne, back to you.
I would like to do a road trip cross country. I've never been past Banff.
What?
I know. I went as a child. You know what? The thing is, it's the same price or cheaper to fly to Europe than it would be to go
Yes.
to the rest of Canada, which really bothers me. I was like, why don't you want to see the rest of your country? Please make things cheaper, Air Canada, if you're listening.
They do listen,
yeah.
actually. Yeah.
So I would love to go. If not like road trip, then at least go to the Maritimes. My partner's from the Maritimes.
Oh, where from?
He's from New Brunswick.
Oh, cool. I'm from Nova Scotia.
Oh,
so,
yes.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
I just want to eat seafood the size of dinner plates. It
Yeah,
just, it looks
so
insane.
It is there.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
And as a Brit, you'd enjoy the fish and chips out there.
Oh,
It's
I've
like
been.
proper. Oh, yeah?
I've been, and
Okay,
some
cool.
of those like old school diners.
Yeah, the best.
It's kind of like, you know, that diner we went for brunch after we voted, and it's like old school, and you just think, because Vancouver, we have a lot of bougie restaurants, so
Very
you
bougie,
think
yeah.
it looks kind of crappy. You're like, oh, it's gonna, but best food. They're like,
Which one was this?
it's like, it's on Main Street. Everything we love is on Main Street. The one where your friend, we can totally cut this, the one where your friend works. We voted, we walked over from City Hall, we had like the biggest pancakes.
Oh, yes. Helen's Grill.
Helen's Grill.
Helen's Grill.
They have the...
Shout out Helen.
honestly, the best pancakes in the city, and I will hold everyone to that. I don't know what it is. I know that the owner is the
See
Keystone
how loud and
Gargoyles.
excited she got.
I saw him the other day. I was like, "What is your pancake recipe?" He's like, "I don't know. I make it, I pray, and then they come out great." And I was like,
Wow.
"Oh,
It's
Amazing.
so good.
So
And they
just
have
pray
these
over
little
your
like
pancakes.
Yes.
jukeboxes on the
Yeah.
table, and it looks like it might have a layer of dirt everywhere, but it's
It
not.
definitely
It's
does.
fine.
Oh,
It's just old.
Yeah.
you know?
oh, they don't clean those jukeboxes."
yeah.
Oh, no.
That's okay.
But that reminds me of the East Coast, and like you're just driving in this tiny rural town. There's a little old diner that someone's running that like all the locals go to, and the whole family's there, and you just don't expect much of it, but it blows you away.
Yeah,
because you
it's
get,
like home
this
cooking.
Lobster, and
Yeah.
it's so good.
All right. Well,
Oh,
this
yeah.
this episode brought to you by Helen's Grill.
Yes. My last haven't, you know what? Last haven't yet is what we want for our business, because I've had an idea in my head for over 10 years now.
Okay.
And we're slowly working towards it. And I think we're like, whether it happens or not is fine, but it is something in mind of having like a big community space and a shop, and like having our studio above it.
Very cool.
And having local artists and like movie nights, and just having a community center, but it's more
Different.
bougie than you know, it's nice, and there's food and there's drink and there's
Okay.
our office upstairs.
I like that. Like a cafe meets art studio meets community space.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be like a big long wooden table, and then we get to design stuff that's in the shop, and then say someone buys a mug, they can go
Yeah.
to the coffee shop and get a discount because they bought the mug, and like,
I know a really good restaurant consultant that could help you with that concept.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
It's me.
Oh,
Oh, I like how we're both like, I wonder
who that is. Well, that's fine. 'cause
Awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Daphne, over to you. Last one.
Last one. I have a lot of like things of food that I want to make. So I fried chicken the other day, and I
Okay.
didn't burn down the house, so that was very exciting.
Amazing.
But next on my list is actually building a layer cake.
Oh, okay.
So I've never done that before, and then make a pie. But the layer cake first, because it's
I
quite
feel-
daunting.
I feel like the pie would be a little more suiting because we have Thanksgiving coming up in
Yes.
like a couple days.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know.
But the layer cake is just like you gotta have the layers, and like it's a lot of
Yeah.
ingredients and time
Yes.
and money. So one day though.
We'll definitely be on the lookout on social media for the layer cake and the
Excellent.
pie. I want to take a moment to say thank you both for coming onto the show. I really do appreciate it. I feel like we could have kept going for another hour or so. I respect what you guys are doing. I think it's really, really cool, and I am excited to watch your growth. I cannot wait to see this space come to fruition. I'm excited about your tattoo. I'm excited to go try these pancakes on Helen's. Maybe we can all go together. We can
Yeah.
like get jazzed over pancakes.
So
But if anyone is listening and they do want to engage with you guys and find out more about what you do and how you do what you do, how best they do that?
probably the best place to start is at Salt Design Company on Instagram, or by going to saltdesignco.studio. You can also find us at designbuildandgrow.com, or as a handle on Instagram, which is our online education platform, where throughout the years we've built up a range of resources and blog posts, and we decided to give them their own home that was separate to our studio.
Yeah, I love that. We should do a whole other podcast on that.
Yeah, it's a whole
Love
other
to.
thing. Yeah.
It'd be great.
Yeah. And then individually, if people want to like check out your layer cake and want to check out a photo of your tattoo, you guys if you're open to sharing your profiles.
I don't remember. Hold on.
Okay.
I am Lucy_Jane_Greg.
Okay, with a little like Beyonce shoulder.
With a little shoulder shake.
On your Instagram?
Am I not?
You're just at Lucy Jane Greg.
Oh, okay. Scrap the underscores then.
I was like, I don't remember your Instagram handle being so busy.
I think it used to.
Oh, right. It is with
is.
the underscore. Yes.
See, I know my own Instagram.
Yeah, I do not. 1 second.
That's all right.
Mine is Daphne Wong.
Yeah.
So DAPHNEYNWONG. My stories are wild. It's just me shaming my partner and then photos of black cats. So please follow me.
Daphne's funny to follow. Yeah. You're like sassy and funny.
Amazing. I want to thank you guys again so much for taking time for me and the listeners. I say it all the time on my podcast that time is the most valuable thing that we have. So thank you for sharing the last 59 minutes and 18, 19, 20, 21 seconds with myself and listeners. I want to thank you guys for tuning in as you do week after week. If it wasn't for you, this show would not exist. I truly appreciate and love you all. That is Lucy. That is Daphne. I am Brad. This is the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Thank you too again for holding space. You know what to do. Until next time, guys. Be good and do good. That's it. We did it.
Thank you. That was so great.
That was fun.
That was really fun.
Cool.